What are we discussing on today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast? What is Fanduel saying about the Dbacks now that we're halfway through the season? And answering your guys' questions on today's Mailbag Friday.
You are Locked on Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. You're listening to who? The always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas, multimedia journalist and graphic designer. So please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there, you can see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. On today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, we're going to be discussing how this could be a potential trap series when looking at the pitching for the Miami Marlins, what Fanduel is saying about the Dbacks now that we're 80 games through the season, and then answering your guys' questions on today's Mailbag Friday. So a whole bunch I want to talk to you guys about on today's podcast. But first, I want to say thank you for making Locked on Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms. So please continue to tell your friends. One of those platforms is YouTube. Please hit subscribe to Locked on Diamondbacks on YouTube. Back here on the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. Now I want to discuss how this next series against the Miami Marlins could be a potential trap series for the Arizona Diamondbacks. This is a squad that the Dbacks should handle and have handled one time already this season. They did get a sweep of the Miami Marlins earlier this year. And so we are just looking for the Dbacks to replicate their success in this series like they did once before. Another sweep goes such a long way for the Arizona Diamondbacks. As we keep saying, we want them to finish with 16 wins in the month of June because we feel like that's the perfect barometer for them to stay in this wild card race and for them to be buyers at the MLB trade deadline. They've been at 16 wins in the month of June the last two seasons exactly. And last year, we know they started the season slow, just like they're doing in 2025. June was a month where they started to turn it around. They went 16-10 in the month of June last year. And so far, the D-backs, I believe, are at 14 wins with 4 games left. And you got a team in the Miami Marlins who you have already swept once this season. And so everything's falling in place for the D-backs to finish this month strong. Right now, they have the best record, I believe, in the month of June of all Major League Baseball teams. And so it's been a good month for them, but you can't take the foot off the gas pedal just yet. You're not at the trade deadline. You're not at the All-Star break. You got to finish strong through the All-Star break. You got to finish strong through the month. Miami Marlins are up next, and you cannot take them lightly. It's easy to overlook the Marlins because you look at their team on paper, you look at their stats, and you say, this is one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball. And all that is true. The Marlins enter the series 33-45. They are right at the bottom of their division with the Washington Nationals. They're slightly better than the Nationals right now, but minus 85 run differential is the second worst in the National League. No one is worse than the minus 211 that the Colorado Rockies have at the time of me recording this podcast, 12:50 p.m. on a Thursday. But for the Miami Marlins, they are clearly one of the worst teams in the National League, but they do have one thing going for them, at least for the first 2 games of the series, and that is some improved starting pitching that the D-backs can't take lightly. Yes, the Marlins are a bad team, but we're going to see Yuri Perez in game 1 and Sandy Alcantara in game number 2, and Yuri Perez is someone who I like a lot as a tantalizing talent. He is probably getting overlooked right now because this is someone coming off Tommy John surgery, was activated in the month of June. And so he's probably not back to 100% just yet. I wouldn't expect him to go out there and throw 7.2 innings pitched and 115, pitches thrown. But Yuri Perez is still someone that is super talented, throwing harder now than he was pre-Tommy John, fastball averaging 98 miles per hour. And the thing about Yuri Perez is this was regarded as one of the best prospects in baseball pre-Tommy John. In 2023, entering that season, according to MLB.com, he was the number 13 prospect. According to Baseball America, he's the number 7 prospect. And so you can say consensus, he was a top 10 prospect in baseball entering the 2023 season. And he was very good that year. At 20 years of age, 19 starts, a 3.15 ERA, double-digit strikeouts per 9 innings, was really good as a rookie, a 1.12 whip. Like, the numbers across the board were really impressed. Yes, he gave up some walks, but what 20-year-old pitcher doesn't give up some walks, right, and deal with command issues? And so he undergoes Tommy John. He misses the entire 2024 season, just got activated, but not a lot of people talking about Yuri Perez. He's on this crappy Marlins team that just feels like they're always rudderless and going nowhere. But I think Yuri Perez is someone that you can't take lightly. You can't take lightly, and someone that could pop out and have a big game in game number 1 if you're the Arizona Diamondbacks. Like, do not overlook Yuri. And then Sandy Alcantara in game number 2. I know he's having a terrible season when you look at the numbers. A 6.69 ERA is absolutely atrocious, but recently he's been pitching better over his last 4 starts. He has a 2.74 ERA. And so the Marlins have Yuri Perez, still filthy stuff, a guy who is regarded as one of the best prospects in baseball just a couple years ago and still only 22 years of age, got a former Cy Young Award winner from a couple seasons ago, starting to pitch better now. Remember, both of these guys did not pitch at all in 2024. So it's easy to think that, yes, they're not going to come out right away in their first start and be fantastic. They're going to need a little time to get acclimated, get their rhythm going. And so for Sandy Alcantara, this would be his 16th start of the season after missing all 2024. He's probably starting to find his rhythm, find his groove. Yuri Perez, it's only like his 5th start, but being 22 years of age, not having a lot of MLB action on that arm, it's probably a little bit more fresh than other guys coming off Tommy John surgery. And so for the D-backs in this series, just replicate what you did last time. That's all I need, because the D-back starters that they're throwing out in this series is the exact same rotation that they threw out last time. Merrill Kelly, Brandon Pfaadt, Erod, exact same order, exact same trio. And last time, Kelly went 6 innings, 1 earned run, 9 Ks. Pfaadt went 5.2 innings pitch, 1 earned run, 6 Ks. Erod went 5.1 innings pitch, 1 earned run, 9 Ks. Each guy looked fantastic. Erod did have 10 hits allowed in his start, but all of them looked very good against the Miami Marlins. And if we can just get repeat performances of those from the starters, I think the D-backs would be in good shape. Obviously, the lineup could be a concern because of the injuries to the offense, but I do believe because of the lack of hitters that the Marlins have, the D-backs pitchers should be enough in this series. And so let's just get repeat performances from the starters. Don't overlook the Marlins starters, at least for the first couple games of the season. And remember, Pavin Smith, he's probably going to be the X factor in this series. He loves playing in Miami. He's from the area. 2 home runs last time against the Marlins, 6 for 11 in that series. Historically, he always plays great whenever the D-backs play the Marlins. And so watch for Pavin Smith to have a huge game in that series against the Miami Marlins. Now we'll discuss what Fanduel thinks about the D-backs in segment number 2. But first, I want to talk to you guys about Game Time, because have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day. You suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. They've got incredible last minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. I love Game Time. I use it for my tickets to the D-backs games, and especially for my tickets to concert events, because I always wait to the last minute to get the best deals from Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, Create an account and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. That's LOCKEDONMLB. Download the GameTime app. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Dbacks are now 80 games through the MLB season. And so, what are our friends at Fanduel saying about the Arizona Diamondbacks? Let's look at some of their awards for the Dbacks for the rest of the season for both the team and some players. And the first one I want to start with is the World Series, because the D-backs, maybe you think they're being disrespected, or maybe you think it falls in line with how the D-backs have played this season, because currently FanDuel is saying the D-backs have the 18th best World Series odds in Major League Baseball at plus 7,000 to win it all. The teams behind the D-backs: Twins, Guardians, Royals, Reds, Orioles, Angels, Nationals, Rockies, Pirates, White Sox, Marlins, A's. So I don't think there's one team behind the Diamondbacks that you could talk yourself into actually win the World Series. And so, as bad as the D-backs have played this season, I feel like there should at least be one team behind Arizona that you're like, oh, I could at least see them win the World Series. You're basically saying Arizona is like the worst team of the realistic teams that could win the World Series, because I think Arizona's the last one. But maybe by FanDuel, they don't even think Arizona's likely, considering the Cardinals are plus 6,500. The Red Sox traded Rafael Devers. They're plus 6,000. Like, they think those teams are more likely than the D-backs to win the World Series. And so I think FanDuel is disrespecting Arizona, who's still 3 games back at the time of us recording this podcast from a wild card spot. Not too bad with a potential sweep against the Miami Marlins coming up. And so I would love to see the D-backs move up in those odds as the season progresses, because I think that's way too low right now. How about some award odds? How about that? How about the MVP award? Because there's currently one D-backs player who is getting some love. I mean, Corbin Carroll's at plus 20,000. Eugenio Suarez plus 25,000. They're at the bottom of the list for FanDuel odds. So you could sprinkle down $1 and make some real money back if you want to on those guys. But Carroll being hurt, Suarez, I don't think a guy batting 230 is going to win the MVP, even if he hits 45 home runs, sadly. But one guy who I discussed on the podcast the other day, saying he could definitely finish as an MVP finalist if he doesn't miss a game the rest of the season, Ketel Marte. The MVP odds, not atrocious for Ketel. Shohei Ohtani's minus 550. Ohtani is going to be the favorite year in, year out. And now that he's back to pitching, even if he's just like an opener doing 2 or 3 innings or a closer, like, he leads the National League in home runs, slugging, OPS. Like, Ohtani's still a monster. Now he's back to pitching. He's won the MVP 3 of the last 4 years. He's probably going to win his 4th in the last 5 years. Like, he's a monster. But all we care about is Ketel finishing as a finalist. And right now, according to the award odds, Ketel Marte is tied for 5th with James Wood, Freddie Freeman, Fernando Tatis, Francisco Lindor, and Pete Alonso for MVP odds. Somehow he's behind Ronald Acuna Jr. Guys, if you're going to get on Ketel Marte for missing games this season, how about Ronald Acuna Jr., who has also only played 30 games this year? There's no way he finishes higher in MVP voting than Ketel Marte, despite his numbers also being very good. His sample size is actually way too low. And so I think there is a very good chance Ketel Marte could finish top 3 in MVP voting, like Pete Crow Armstrong and Juan Soto and Kyle Tucker and Ronald Acuna Jr. are ahead of Ketel Marte. I'll tell you this, 2 Cubs are not finishing ahead of Ketel Marte in MVP voting. Juan Soto, they only have him up here because of his name. His numbers are not better than Ketel Marte's, and I don't think they will finish better than Ketel Marte's either. Actually, they might be, because he's at 900 OPS right now with 19 home runs and 9 stolen bases. Looks like Juan Soto is starting to heat up a little bit, but I still think Ketel is going to finish as an MVP finalist if he stays healthy the rest of the year. This next one I thought was pretty fun. If you actually believe in the D-backs having a second half surge like last year, let's say they have the same exact second half surge as last year, but in the first half, they finished with 1 more win than last year. Do you believe this D-backs team can get to 90 wins? Because There is a chance. The D-backs got to 89 wins last year, and I think they're going to have a better first half this year than they had last season. And if you think they could have the same kind of second half surge that they had in 2024, why not bet on the D-backs to get to 90 wins? It sounds insane considering how up and down and roller coaster of a season it's been this year, but so was 2024, and that team still finished with 89 games. D-backs are plus 450 to get to 90 wins. Fanduel is not a fan of the D-backs. They do not think the D-backs are going to get to 90 wins, but they do think the D-backs are more likely to get to 90 than the Atlanta Braves somehow, even though the Braves are more likely to win the World Series. I don't know how that makes sense, but I think it's not a terrible proposition to bet the D-backs at plus 450 to get to 90 wins if you believe in another second half surge. But if you don't, why not take the over-under on the D-backs win total? Because 83.5, kind of interesting, kind of a perfect win total. Minus 114 for the over, minus 106 for the under. I would probably take the over on the D-backs. They can't finish with 84 wins, which is the amount of wins that they had in 2023 to make it to the postseason. Like, they finish under 84 wins. Torey Lovullo probably should be fired. And I know Corbin Burns is out for the season. I know Martinez and Puck are out for the season. There's a lot of injuries right now, but after 162 games, if the D-backs finish with less than 84 wins, it won't be because of injuries. It will be because of underperformance from this D-back squad, and that would be enough for me to move on from Torey. But we're not there yet. Let's at least give Torey the season because we know the D-backs front office is going to do that, and then let's reevaluate at the end of the year. Do you think the D-backs are going to make the playoffs? This is probably the most fun wager you could do. Not the over-unders because that's only at minus 105 or whatever. Not the 90 wins because plus 450 is juicy. But do you actually think they're going to get to 90? If you actually believe the D-backs are going to finish with 86 wins in that third wildcard spot, go on FanDuel plus 270 for the D-backs to make it to the playoffs. I think that's the best odds you have on here. I would put yes on that because even though the D-backs have looked bad this season, I still do think this is a playoff team. The Mets own a wild card spot, and then after that, I'm not that afraid of the teams ahead of the D-backs. The Brewers always finish the season as a regular season, always finish the season as a very good regular season playoff team. We know once we get to the postseason, they're nothing. But again, I'm not scared of the Brewers on paper. The Padres, I think, are talented, but I do think they're top heavy. The Giants, we'll see. They added Devers. I wouldn't be surprised if they're buyers at the deadline. Not scared of the Cardinals. Not scared of the Cincinnati Reds. Like, I'm probably the most scared of the Giants and the Padres in the NL West, but the Milwaukee's, the Cardinals, the Reds, like the D-backs should be better than those teams. They should probably be better than either the Giants or the Padres. We'll see what happens at the deadline. Whoever has the best deadline will probably make the postseason, whether it's Milwaukee, Cincinnati, the D-backs, San Diego, San Fran. Whoever makes the best pickups, the best transactions at the deadline this year will probably put themselves over the top for the MLB postseason race. And so I'm hoping that's the Arizona Diamondbacks who are looking to be buyers at the deadline this year. And I think we might even have a question about the D-backs being buyers at the deadline for this Mailbag Friday in segment number 3. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. My favorite Wonderful Pistachios I actually have right here. Sorry to the audio listeners only. You're going to have to go to YouTube for this one because right next to me, I got 3 of my favorite flavors here. And this is what is great about Wonderful Pistachios. Unsalted right here, no shell. Chili roasted, no shell. And then this one is roasted and salted with the shell. The great thing about Wonderful Pistachios is the variety. You could get salted, unsalted, with shell, no shell. Get a little kick to it if you wanted to. No matter what flavor you want, they have a variety and a profile that fits just for you. So please go get yourself some wonderful pistachios, get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Back here on the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. And now let's answer your questions on today's Mailbag Friday. The first question is from Bringing Tempe to You. Bringing Tempe to You said, do you think the D-backs are going to get a star, relief, or starting pitcher at the trade deadline? Now, it all depends how you define star, because if you're asking me if I think the D-backs are going to go find themselves a Garrett Crochet, a Dylan Cease type, a Luis Castillo, like someone that you think is a legitimate star, like starting pitcher in Major League Baseball, probably not. I think the D-backs are more likely to trade a star pitcher in Zach Gallen at the deadline, and then maybe you could do some sort of swap where you trade Zach Gallen somewhere and you get back a serviceable major leaguer, but not someone who's a star. Someone on, like, I'm not saying this exact player, but like someone on the level of like a Frankie Montes who are just solid, right? A Sean Manaea a couple years ago with the New York Mets, like not someone great. A Wade Miley back in the day, like someone that could be like a number 4 starter for you, but someone just more serviceable than what Zach Gallen is giving you right now. A John Gray, like these guys who are like number 3, number 4 starters, not someone who's going to be at the front line of your rotation for a postseason series, but can have a good start for a couple starts and then probably gets blown up, but maybe more consistency than what Zach Gallen's giving you in 2025. And so if you ask me about starting pitcher, probably not. More likely to go all in on a star reliever. I still think that's probably unlikely. I know I dropped some names yesterday: the Clases, the Joan Durans, the Pete Fairbranks, Aroldis Chapman. Like, I don't know how much you equate those guys with being a star. Maybe like a Clase. Like, I don't know if Chapman at age 38 is still a star, but he still might be too expensive for the D-backs. Like, you might be looking more in that Kyle Finnegan range, like good relievers who aren't superstars but have good track records. Like, he's got a sub 3 ERA this season, almost 20 saves, had a 3.6 ERA with almost 40 saves last year, was an all-star. Like, Kyle Finnegan's good, but no one's like, oh my God, Kyle Finnegan's one of the premier closers in Major League Baseball. So I think you could get someone that's like a B tier player, both for the rotation and for the bullpen. If you're asking me if we're getting superstar, whoever the disgruntled superstar starting pitcher is this year, the D-backs are getting him. That's probably not the case. That's probably not happening. The D-backs are probably not going to the Atlanta Braves and saying, hey, how much for Chris Sale over there, huh? Now, if the Atlanta Braves want to do Chris Sale for Zach Gallen, like, I would not be opposed at all to doing a deal like that, but I don't think the Atlanta Braves want to do something like that. I think they are, I don't know what they want to do, but I don't think the Braves would do something like that. And so if you're asking me if the D-backs are acquiring a star this season, I would probably say no. But if you ask me about a B level player, I'll probably say yes. Another question from Bringing Tempe to You is, should the D-backs call up Adrian Del Castillo if Jose Herrera gets hurt? Whether Jose Herrera gets hurt or not, the D-backs should just play Adrian Del Castillo over Jose. Now, the issue is Adrian Del Castillo came back from injury, played really well, and then got put on the injured list again. 7-day, doesn't look too serious, but Adrian Del Castillo, if he comes back healthy and is immediately good again in Reno, he should probably get the nod over Jose. I think Jose's been fine for the D-backs this year. I think he's actually delivered in some like clutch moments. Like, I just think Jose's issue is just like he's not supremely talented offensively. Like, I think if I just think he lacks raw talent, honestly. Like, I think he does everything right. It was even a moment in that game against the who did we just play? I don't know why I'm blanking, but there was a moment. I'm gonna have to look up the D-back schedule because I'm blanking off the top of my head. There was a game against the Chicago White Sox where Jose had a 3-1 count and they threw a ball like middle. He crushed it, perfect swing, but Jose just doesn't have enough power to get the ball over the fence. And it's like, he has the good swing. He has a good approach. I think he does everything right. I just think he lacks raw talent and ability to put him over the top when it comes to offensive skill. Defensively, he's decent, but offensively, He knows what he wants to do. I just don't think he has the talent to do it. And so Adrian Del Castillo is actually a monster offensively. And if he can come back healthy, I would call him up over Jose Herrera because he is a real difference maker in your lineup. And then the next question I'm going to answer is from Dbacks 992. He said, "Who is your Mount Rushmore of Arizona Diamondbacks position players?" We've talked about pitchers a ton on this podcast. We know our top three is Randy, Kurt Schilling, Brandon Webb. And then that fourth one, I leave up to you guys. It's either Gallen, it's Merrill Kelly, it could be a Dan Herron. I don't know if you're putting Edwin Jackson on there, probably not, but there's a few other names. Definitely guys that I'm blanking on too. Would you put Robbie Ray up there? I don't know if you would do that. Would you do Patrick Corbin? I don't know if you'd do that. Zach Greinke? Maybe. I don't know if you do that. I personally would go probably Gallen or Kelly since they got us to another World Series, whichever one you want to do between those two guys. If Kelly ends up re-signing with the Dbacks and Gallen leaves, I probably would put Merrill Kelly, but it's a real conversation for now. When we talk about the Mount Rushmore position players for the D-backs, they ain't just like the pitchers. I think there are three guys locked in, and then it's really a toss-up for that fourth guy. Because I think it's clearly Luis Gonzalez, Paul Goldschmidt, and Ketel Marte. I think that is locked in top three guys on the Mount Rushmore. You look at the top three guys for offensive war for the D-backs, those are the top three. When you ask about the fourth guy, that's where it gets pretty dicey because I don't think the options are even as fun as the fourth guy for the D-backs, Mount Rushmore for pitchers. For position players, it's like, is it David Peralta who spent a lot of time here, but not like a superstar player? I don't think David Peralta, let me just double check, but I don't think David Peralta ever made an all-star team with the D-backs. No, never even made an all-star team. Like that's a Mount Rushmore player? Maybe. Also, I have written down Justin Upton, potentially a great prospect for the D-backs. Did have a few nice seasons where Arizona played. His first 6 seasons here was a 2-time All-Star, a couple 20-plus home run seasons. Got some MVP votes, finished 4th in MVP voting one year. Like maybe a Justin Upton. Maybe it's like a Steve Finley or Matt Williams, guys who had a few good seasons with the D-backs and helped us win a World Series. The guy like Nick Ahmed, who was a mainstay for like a decade. Is a guy like Miguel Montero, who was positionally a huge advantage for the D-backs at catcher over other guys because he was a real weapon. I'm not too sure. Again, like for the pitcher, I would leave that fourth space open to you guys and you could drop in the comment section who you think it is. Because right now, I don't think I have an answer. And I think I would just pencil in right now. He's not there yet, but I think it's quite easily after 5 years from now. I think by the time he gets to 2030, it's going to easily be Corbin Carroll. And so I'm just going to put him on the Mount Rushmore of D-backs players now. He's already signed and locked up for the next few seasons. So unless the D-backs trade Corbin Carroll, he's not going anywhere for the next decade, right? And we see even Corbin Carroll at his worst is an all-star. The worst version of Corbin Carroll is essentially a 25 home run, 35 stolen base guy, 850 OPS, and that's like when he's at his worst. At his worst, he's leading the league in triples because of that speed and dynamic ability he has. And so I'm putting him on my Mount Rushmore, even though he doesn't have the pedigree and the credentials there. Are you really going to say David Peralta over Corbin Carroll just because he's played more games than D-backs uniform, or Nick Ahmed over Carroll? I'm not. So give me Carroll on my Mount Rushmore, and then give me Ketel, Paul Goldschmidt, and a little Luis Gonzalez. Now that's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Come back next week for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Doses.